This week's guest is actually literally a stud. I mean, literally a baller. So what's dope about this guy is not only is he dominating the field at BYU, he's also a local kid, dominated the high school realm here in Utah at Timview High School. Super good human being, has a lot of good things going for him on and off the field, but took some time here to come to Benconnected. We got Raider Damuni here in the house on the show live. Raider, what up?
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, brother. Well, I wanted to get you on here. Obviously, you guys had an unreal historical year this last season, but obviously that's not where you started. So let's bring it back a little bit. How was the recruiting process? How was, when did you start playing football? Obviously, I know you're a football family, football guy. Do you come out of the womb playing football, or how was it? Like, give us a little background on who Raider was growing up.
Yeah, growing up, actually, my first sport was basketball.
Bro, you know what's funny? Every football dude says that.
I know.
Every football dude is like, bro, I was a hooper first, and then they end up going to the football route.
Yep, I was basketball. I actually grew up in Hawaii,
Okay.
and so when I was growing up in Hawaii, the football league that was over there, they only played their games on Sundays, and
Oh
so
wow.
up until I was like eighth grade, and then my dad made a league out there that didn't play on Sundays.
Big time.
Yeah, so my parents, we went to church. That's how I was raised. We went to church on Sundays, so they didn't let me play.
Okay.
And growing up, so I just played basketball my whole life until about sixth grade, sixth, seventh grade, and that's when I started playing football. But I always loved football. Football always been my first love, my favorite sport. I always knew my dad played football, and then I would always watch football every Saturday. So it's always been a part of me. But basketball was my first sport. Started playing at sixth grade.
I mean, that's just crazy. The fact that like you're at the level you're at, because you hear it all the time, right? Where you're like, oh man, you got to be in this camp, you got to be going to this exposure camp, you got to be doing this at like third grade, you got to be playing sevens at this time. Bro started at sixth, seventh grade. Obviously, you knew the game and you were around it, but like
Yep.
you were playing seventh grade. I mean, that's big to get to the Division 1 level. So, I guess late to the public eye, right? They'd be like, oh, you got to start earlier, and so that's dope, dude. And then not only that, your dad started a league that's not playing on Sundays. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like? It was just kind of like, hey, you want to play, and
Yeah.
there was enough following. What was that like?
So honestly, it was in Hawaii. There was only one league where I was living, on the island I lived on. It was in Maui, and it was called Pop Warner. And it's a weight. It's by weight. And so my dad, he in Maui, he started a league that there's no weight requirement, and you can play. It's called the Big Boys League. That's what it's called.
So you can have like, so there's no X-Man
There's
type
no
thing.
X Man. Yeah,
Okay.
everyone's going, and Hawaii. There's a bunch of big boys out there that didn't have the opportunity to play football growing up, and so
So sick.
not only did that help those people, but it helped a lot of the people of the LDS faith who lived on the island
Yeah.
play. They got to play football and start football at that age, so
Which
it was
wasn't
good.
nice because they weren't playing on Sunday.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so starts a league, you start playing, you're in Hawaii, and then you move to Utah.
Yeah. Moved to
Okay,
Utah.
how was that transition? Obviously, a little different.
Yeah, different, but man, I feel like there's always like a negative look on Utah.
Yeah.
When I moved to Utah, I loved it. Like I loved it so much. I had friends over here. I have some of my dad's siblings lived over here as well.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of family and a good support system when we moved up from Hawaii. It's definitely different,
Yeah.
and you definitely miss home at times, but it was great. I love being here in Utah, and it was a really good transition, especially athletically for sports and stuff too.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a lot of knocks on Utah, right? Where it's like, it's boring, it's super LDS, which, to be fair, yes, there is a
Yeah.
lot of LDS members of the church here, but like, there's like, I mean, the scenery in Utah is unreal. You got Moab, you got Bryce Canyon, you got Zions, you got, or even locally, you got the Salt Flats, you got Tibble Fort. I mean, you got so many dope spots in Utah that you kind of like, you got to come here and then you experience it. Like a lot of pro guys, even jazz guys that I talk to, they're like, dude, like, I never would have even guessed Utah would have been like this. And like, I love it. Like, a lot of guys were like, hey, I want to live here after playing. Even after they get traded and stuff, like they're like, yo, I want to live back in Utah just because of what it is. So that's sick that like, and Hawaii's beautiful. So it's like to have that compliment of Utah is kind of sweet because it's like, I mean, there's a lot of people that want to live in paradise. I mean, Hawaii is unreal. It's super beautiful. And then it's like, different, but cool. So you came here in eighth grade, right? Eighth
Yep.
grade?
Yep.
So eighth grade, obviously, you moved to Utah. You're playing basketball, football. Did you play basketball, football throughout your high school career as well? Did you just play one or the other? How was that like?
Yeah, in high school I played basketball as well.
Okay.
I played basketball and football. I played though only my freshman year and then my junior year.
Okay.
So because I graduated early to go on my mission, so I couldn't play my senior year. But my sophomore year, that's really when I was starting to focus on football more, and that's when I started getting more recruiting interest and more offers. And so that's when I really just was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on football this offseason, get bigger, get stronger, get faster for football because that's where I'm gonna be at the next level. And then, so I took a break off from basketball that year, and then yeah, it's ever since then it's just been football. So
I love it, bro.
it's been great.
How is that like recruiting process? Obviously, you came from Hawaii. You obviously you have a rich history of football blood, but it's like, how is that recruiting? What kind of, camps were you going to? What kind of, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, to be honest, when I first moved up, I didn't even understand what the recruiting process was. Like, I didn't know what a scholarship. I just knew like I just knew I wanted to play football one day in college. I didn't understand there was a whole process that came with it. And so when I moved up to Utah and I got my first scholarship offer from BYU, I kind of was like, yeah, BYU was my first one. I kind of was like, oh, nice. What does that mean? Like, I'm just like a kid that doesn't really know any of this stuff. Where I come from, there's not a lot of kids who go D1 and play college football. And so it was cool. And I committed on the spot actually. So on the spot when they offered me, I believe it was the end of going into my freshman year, they offered me. I was like, I'm ready. I'm gonna commit right here. And I didn't really understand like what all this recruiting process meant. But as time went on, more schools started offering me, especially the schools in state who were really recruiting me a lot. And then that really made me think and continue to understand about like or be more educated on what the recruiting process was. And from that point on, I really started to really keep my options open. I was committed to BYU, but I felt like I didn't give everybody a fair shot when I immediately committed my
Right. I
first
mean,
offer. And knowing,
especially
yeah,
at freshman year though, like,
yeah,
I mean, you're young, you're like, I mean, dude, I remember what like freshman year and a school like that offers you, it's just like, well, yeah, that's the goal, now it's here. So I mean, it's understandable why you committed right away, and B, like, kind of why you're like, well, it just makes sense.
yep.
Especially when that process of it is so crazy that a lot of people don't even understand half of it, right? Like where it's like, dude, there's an offer, and then there's, okay, you get there, and it's not just a guarantee just because you're an offer guy. Like it's still a grind. Like a lot of people, I think, have a misconception. It's like, okay, once I commit, I'm good. It's like, no, dude, you gotta. If anything, that's like the first step to even working harder. And so you leave it open. Did you ever like decommit from BYU, or did you kind of just like low key just kind of go through the
So I
process?
didn't decommit, but I did take visits to other schools. And there was a point in my recruiting process where I told my dad, I was like, Dad, like I know like you guys want me to be at BYU. I've dreamt of being at BYU my whole life. And I'm not taking BYU out of the options, but I feel like it would be best for me to decommit. And he was super supportive of me during that time. He told me, do what you need to do. No matter what, where would I would love you to? I would love to see you play at BYU myself as your father and as someone who works here. But at the end of the day, it's your decision, and wherever you go and what decisions you make, I'm going to support you fully. And so I really when I felt that support system, I kind of was like, you know what, I'm gonna pray about this more, think about it, if I really want to decommit, and I ended up not decommitting, and I'm blessed to be at BYU. I've dreamt to be at BYU, but at the same time, I was really close to going to like schools like Utah. Utah was like that close, man, for us, and it's something that I can't even believe, like growing up in a BYU household and stuff. But
Especially
it's
Utah. I mean,
yeah,
Utah, like, I mean, obviously, and, when you probably were, recruited, obviously BYU has made massive changes as far as, different staff members have been there, different coaching, different schemes, different players have now, BYU in the past has kind of been more of a, hey, like, it's solid, but like, Utah has been traditionally putting more guys in the league. They've been doing more things. And so it's like, that makes sense where it's like, man, I'm a through and through BYU guy, but like, dang, like this could be big, Then obviously, BYU has figured out different approaches, and I feel like some things with their recruiting processes, I think they've upped their game as far as how they kind of have been doing things, and so I think now you're starting to see that effect, right? You're seeing bigger guys commit. You're seeing LDS kids that are top guys committing to BYU, because in the past BYU wasn't even getting the top LDS kids, which was crazy. Like any in-state, right? Like I mean, if they would have lost a guy like you to an in-state rival, it would have been crazy, right? But kind of normal. like at that point, you know what I mean? And so you go through your high school career, you dominate that. You played at a high level. Did you go to any cool camps, any like, all American stuff, anything like that? Like like what was that kind of like when you were in high school?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I didn't go to like a whole bunch of camps. I went to like university camps, but I did go to one camp in high school. I think I was a sophomore going to my junior year. It was the Rivals camp in California that I got invited to go to, and I went to that camp. I did a lot of the 7-on-7 circuit as well. I was with Level Up Elites in high school with Trey Ofahengawe. Them, I don't know if you know who that is, but I played with them, and we traveled a lot, and so that's where I made a lot of the relationships with the players that I know now in college, and we actually made it to the nationals in Atlanta, Georgia, and we played over there. So that was a really fun time for me. But other than that, I really was. I think the best camps to go to if you're a kid is to go to those college camps and put yourself out there in front of the coaches. Because when I did notice when I went to like the Rivals camp, I wasn't a big time guy, but all the attention when you go to those camps are on those big time guys that are there, and so you kind of just, if you're not putting yourself out there every single play and getting exposed or then just like putting yourself out there, you're not going to get looked at. And so for me personally, what helped me the most in high school through that recruiting process, I feel like, was going to those university camps and putting yourself in front of the coaches and so they can evaluate you themselves.
No, absolutely. I do fully, agree. Like, cause I went, so I was a hooper. So I played full basketball AAU, went to West Coast Elite camps, did all those, right? And yeah, like I remember I went to West Coast Elite camp and it was like Frank Jackson, Yoli, Brendan Bailey, and those dudes. And it was like, they already had like ton of offers. So I was like, okay, cool. Like they already know who they are. So like they'll probably look for some other guys. Nah, bro.
Nah,
Like,
yeah,
nah, they
it's
they,
not how it
they,
works.
they just watch those guys, they just watch
Yep.
them even more, And so luckily, like for me, I was like on Brendan's team. So like I was able to like do some things to, at least I knew my games were being watched, right?
Yep.
And so it was cool. But yeah, like I think like I got the most beneficial like experience when it was like individual like elite camps from the schools where I was like able to actually talk to the like players and like coaches on their teams.
Yep. Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot of schools in the country, so you can't go to every college camp. But it's like, man, select like a couple that you can just try to go to, and I think that's well more valuable. Unless you're getting invited to a camp, then it's
Yeah.
different. But like, if you're like, I feel like there's a little bit of a over hype about those camps that it's like that's not the only way to get recruited. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's other ways too,
There's
and
definitely other ways.
and I think that's kind of like something that young kids kind of miss because of social media right now. It's like, dang, dude, if I'm not doing this, I'm gonna miss out, or I'm doing this. So, what advice would you give to a kid? Like, obviously, yeah, like you were saying, like obviously you were good and you were going to those things, but you're saying that you got more kind of exposure at the 7-on-7 and stuff like that, as well as the school camps. What advice would you give to a kid that's maybe not one of those top kids?
Yeah, I think just be real with yourself too. Like if you're a kid who's looking for your first offer, don't be going to Alabama's football camp and think you're gonna go pick up an Alabama offer. But then also like thinking back to myself, when I was in high school, something that really helped as well was using your social media, using Twitter or X now, like doing stuff like that. The coaches are on there all the time, and then just reaching out to coaches. Like, don't be the worst thing that they can say is no to you. And so my advice to them is be realistic for yourself. Go to those camps where the coaches are going to be there, and get reps. Like even if you're going to get exposed, it's better than if they didn't see who you were. But I feel like especially at just like being at BYU too, like the coaches, they respect us when we go out and we say we lose a rep and we just keep going, keep going, keep going. They don't care about if we lose, but they care how we're going to respond. And so I think putting yourself out there when you go to these camps is the most important thing for a kid trying to get recruited and doesn't have his name in the spotlight at this time.
Also, another big part of that is our partners that we've partnered up with. Dunked Cookies out in Saratoga Springs. Literally the best people ever. Go out there, tap in, get any one of their cookies, and you will not miss. Trust me, it's awesome. Lodge 33, the best hat that I wear, only hat I wear. Appreciate them. Mosita Meat Market in Provo and Lehigh. They got a butcher shop at both, but they have a restaurant down in Provo. So if you're in Provo, you want to get it before the game, let me know. I'll make sure to send you a code to get you right. Shout out JCF and Co. Best jewelry in the game. Absolutely take care of you in any way. Can customize pieces, get you whatever you need. Appreciate him for hooking it up with the chain today. Lone Wolf Prints do all my printing on all my merch. Shout out them. Shout out Odeon. You know, sometimes you gotta not wear street clothes and you gotta wear a suit and tie. So appreciate Odeon getting me right with my suits. Also, guys, I want to shout out today. We just partnered with Rockin' Crust. It's only been open for 5 months. It's literally a hidden gem as far as pizza and any restaurant. The owner is there on site every day. Super great dude. Brought the New York, Brooklyn style of pizza to Utah. Make sure to go in there. You will not miss on any one of their pizzas. They have all different sizes. It's super smooth, low key, chill, good vibes, good people. Make sure to tap in with Rockin' Crust Pizza in American Fork. Yeah, no, I dude agree 100%, bro. Especially like, yeah, like when it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this big time camp, and it's like, which is cool, like you know, if you can do that, like you know, but it's like, man, have those experiences. Like sometimes you got to hit a little base hit first, you know, like sometimes you got to get on base, you know, before you know, try to go for a grand slam. And so, you know, I think camps are an awesome opportunity, but I also think just, you know, how you play and what you're doing, like just in live reps and in games and in high school games. So you end up, you know, committed to BYU. You kind of had some thoughts throughout the process, but you stayed it true to BYU. You go on a mission. You know, how was your mission? What was that experience like? Obviously, you sacrificed. Like, obviously, you know, you go through football, basketball. That's kind of your life. To then 2 years of, you still get a little bit of it, but like your identity is so different on a mission, right? And so it's like, what was that like going from kind of the comfortability of being, hey, I'm Raider, the football player, to, hey, now I'm Elder Damuni? Like, how was that transition for you?
It was like I'm so grateful for my mission and the opportunity that I had to serve. I will say prior to going on my mission, it was definitely something like that I thought about as well. Like, is this like now that it's really coming? Is this what I want to do, or do I want to maybe go play a year first and hide the fact, yeah, play a year first and then not really go? But it's something that I had to decide. But something that I'm super grateful for that I did decide to go, because while I was out there on my mission, it helped me to understand more of God's will for me rather than what I want in my life, you know? And so if God wanted me to play in the NFL, and if he wanted me to accomplish those dreams that I had for myself, he would make it happen regardless if I go on a mission or not. And that's something that I learned on my mission. Like that grew me closer to God was through serving other people and doing all those things. I realized that if he wants me to go to the NFL, if he wants me to play pro, he'll make a way. If not, then it's not his plan for me. And so I think that experience was something that I needed for in my life. I needed in my life, especially leading up to my mission when I was kind of debating if I really wanted to go or not. And so it's changed my perspective of life and everything I do. You know, with I have if I have goals or dreams in other aspects of life, if it's God's will, it's gonna happen. He's gonna provide a way for me to do that. And so that's something that my mission has helped me with, and it's blessed my life.
No, absolutely. I mean, a mission, you know, is life changing. The good, the bad, like everything in between. Like a mission, like it's so a mission is so unique. Obviously, to every mission is unique. Like I mean, the people in you know the Philippines are experiencing a lot different than you know Houston or to Oakland where you were at. You know, like there's a lot of different things that happen. But I think what's so super cool, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, is like you know I think sometimes you know you grow up and you see all these dudes that are like, oh man, they went on a mission, and you kind of like you're like, dang, it must have been easy for them to just decide to go, you know? And it's like, no, it's actually like, it's not, you know, it's easy to sit there and sing, like, I hope they call me on a mission when you're, you know, in primaries and stuff. And then you get older and you're like, oh, wow, like, I can actually make a lot of different decisions. And they're actually good decisions. Like, you know, going to play football for a year or 2 years or not going at all isn't the worst decision you're going to make at 18 years old. There's a lot worse decisions, right? But I think what you learn, you know, I'm not a big believer of like it's the best 2 years of my life because like, bro, like now that I'm married, now that I'm married, bro, like I have a like what I'm doing is way cooler than anything I ever did like on my mission per se. But it was the best 2 years for my life. You know what I mean? Like prepare wise, like you know, talk about goal setting, talk about you know accomplishing things, talk about putting yourself out there, dude. You got to go and talk to people, and they don't really want to talk to you.
No, yeah.
Like they don't care, you know. And I think that was kind of like a unique thing too, because it was like, you know, in high school, You're kind of the man. People talking to you, like they're like, "Oh, what's up, man?" Like they don't know. You go on the bus and say what's up to someone, they're like, "Why are you talking to me? I could care less who you are or what you're doing. Don't talk to me," you know. And so, I think missions are, super. Obviously, everyone's gonna do their own thing, and they gotta, feel it themselves and do that. But I think like I would recommend to go and attempt a mission to every kid. You know what I mean? Like just to at least go. Like even if it's a day, dude. That day might be you might be taught something in that one day that you never would have been taught anywhere else, And so mission super powerful and super, good experience to help promote and platform you to other things so you go through your mission, you go through the ups, you go through the downs, you get home. What was that like?
It was a struggle. That's another part. It was a struggle coming home and trying to get back physically to where you're at. I went on my mission. I served Tongan speaking,
Okay.
so I was around Tongans all the time. So I was eating
So
my
you're
life
getting
away.
right.
I was getting big, yeah. So I think I gained about like 25 pounds. That's not like terrible. I gained like 25 pounds on my mission.
Yeah.
I came home like 220, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest I've ever been.
Yeah.
And then getting back into that,
When it's different too, because you're not only just eating a lot,
yeah,
but
you're
like
not working out a lot.
you're working out, but like the workouts on a mission is like, even if you did an extra like hour, even if you did extra, it's like, bro, it's just
Yeah, you're.
it's different. Like it's pure different. So you're 220, you're 220, 230 on
I
the
was like,
mission.
no, I was on my mission when I came. I was like around 217. So like
Okay.
I was big. Like I was
Yeah.
big for a safety. Like they were kind of talking to me, asking if I wanted to play linebacker when I came home,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh no, I'll
You're
just
like, oh crap,
drop
I
the
gotta.
weight.
You're like, yeah, you're like, I'm gonna just cut down. I'll
Yeah.
cut.
So I think that was the biggest part that was hard for me
Yeah.
was getting back physically to where I was. And it's funny because I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, BYU, you guys are older. You guys should be better." It's like I promise you, if we switch spots from coming to school or going to college immediately from high school, and then taking someone who hasn't worked out for 2 years
Yes.
and throw him in the college game, like you're gonna take the kid from high school every single time, 100%. Like it's not an easy thing to do. It's a
It's
disadvantage.
actually super hard. Like
Yeah,
I
and
think
so
people, yeah, I think that is a misconception when they're like, well, no wonder they're so good. They're 25. I'm
yeah,
like, dude, if anything, bro, I would love to see a 25-year-old go compete with 18-year-olds.
I
Like,
know.
like you see it at the rec, dude. You're like, bro, like your time's passed, man. Like
Yeah,
the 18-year-old's nice. Like, yeah, it's a misconception for sure.
yeah. But I think other than that, it was pretty smooth for me. I came home. I came in. I moved with my friends, and that was a good time. And then I met my wife, and so we started dating from there. And then knew that she was the one, and so I proposed to her, and we got married.
Love it, bro.
Yep.
I know I was obviously, we're follow each other on Instagram and stuff, and so I was looking at your Instagram and my man's being a vlogger right now. And so you're in your vlogging area. And so I was watching and he said, she was all in my DMs, liking my stories, and I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome. You guys, seem super good and just and I think that's something that's so unique and special about BYU in its own respective way is that, you know, you have such a good support system, like whether it's teammates, church community, like a lot of the dudes, like a lot of your teammates are kind of having the same, like life progressions as well. Obviously, there's a ton of dudes that are not LDS on your team, and there's guys that are maybe struggling with church thoughts on the team, but like the culture of it is like so powerful that I think like that's what makes I mean, because reality is like NIL is going to be NIL. Playbooks are going to be playbooks. But I think the culture of what BYU is and what they are becoming is something that's so much more powerful than like what nice facility you have, right? Like, because at the end of the day, like facilities are facilities. Like you can lift wherever, but it's like that culture that Kalani and the staff from the recruiting coordinator to, you know, the GA to whoever, it's all one. Like it's all the same wavelength. Like at least from outside in. Like when I'm looking as a fan, you're like, man, they just like operate. Like Kalani's like, and I think that's something that's super cool about being like a fan of football in general. But like watching BYU games is like, dude, he'll lose a game and he's not like. In my head as a couch coach, I'm a phenomenal couch coach. Like I'm unreal. Like I'm so good that I should have like a coaching job in Division 1. Hence why I'm on a couch, talking about it. I'm a coach. I'm a coach. Or my wife said it the other day because we were watching a game last year, and I was like, "Man, they got to do this, this, and this." And she goes, "There's a reason why you're on the couch." And I was like, "All right, fair enough." But it's like Kalani, like, you will lose, like, BYU will lose a game, and he's like, it's my fault. That's crazy. Like, all these other coaches are like, yeah, well, he didn't do this, or like, a player didn't do, like, Kalani's always like, it's my fault. I didn't prepare them well enough. And I'm like, bro, I've been to practices. I know he's prepared them.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know he's like giving up. Like, I remember, like, I knew BYU was gonna beat Utah last year because I went to the practices like, I went 3 days that week before they played. And I mean, that's, like, just how you guys prepared for that game. I was like, I didn't know, like, I didn't never thought it was gonna be a blowout, just because, like, you kind of have to take that out of a rivalry game just in general. But like, that dude prepares, like,
Oh yeah.
and every other coach too. Like, right, everyone was locked in, but it's like, something went south, and he's like, yeah, it was my fault. I didn't prepare him. And I was like, that's the leader that you want to play for. You know what I mean? Is that kind of how the players feel, that same kind of way, or is that, what is that like playing for, like, the culture of BYU?
100%. I think you nailed it. Like he's always someone that's gonna take accountability, even if he doesn't need to take accountability. Like you said, he prepares us, and we're prepared every single week to go out and to play the best game of football. And sometimes we're not gonna win. Sometimes there's a couple games last year that we dropped. And what people don't know is the first thing that he tells us in the locker room when we lose isn't he's not yelling at us, he's not getting mad at us. He's telling us go home and love your families. Go home and love your wives. Go give them a big hug and don't let this game change who you are when you go home. And so I think it goes back to what you're saying with the culture is he's 100% ambassador for the culture of BYU to love and to learn and to be good young men. And it's more than just football. But at the same time, he's competitive. He's one of the most competitive dudes I've ever met, as well as Jay Hill and all the rest of the coaching staff. They want to win every single week, but they do understand that there's bigger things than football, and they also help us as players to to understand that and to be good people as well. And so I think it's been a blessing to play under Coach Kalani and to play under someone who's always going to have your back. That's
Absolutely.
something that you want. And yeah, that's what I
I
have to say towards that.
and I think too, like, man, when you have a guy like that, like, that's like the guy, right? Like, the head coach. Like, it's not just like a random, like, not that it doesn't matter. Like, assistant coaches, every coach matters. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying, like, when it's the head coach and he operates that way through and through, and right, like what you said. I remember we were talking. I was talking to Kalani, and he was telling me, because I was struggling as a sophomore basketball coach, and I was like, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I suck. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I just can't get these dudes to play hard. Like, I don't know. Like, they obviously want to win. And there was two things that I learned during that, and it was, Kalani was like kind of what you already said, but he's like, you got to remind them, like, after this loss, like, don't go be negative to your family. Like, they just came and watched you for 2 hours. Like, they saw what happened. Like, they're still there. Go love them. Go give them a hug. Appreciate them for being here. Thank them for being here. And I was like, wow. Like, so I kind of tried to just change that a little bit too late. I was at the end of the season where I was like, dang, I should have done this earlier. That's such good advice. And then another thing was just like, you know, Craig Manning. I've been reading his book. And it's been super powerful. And he came and spoke to our leadership team at the dealership, and it was really powerful when he talked about control. You can control. You can't control. Like, you guys can be the most prepared. You guys can do every single thing execution wise, and there might be fluke things that happen. There might be. You can't control if someone throws the ball to that pass. If even if you, like, 90% of the time it's happening, like, you just don't know, right? But you can control, where your headspace is. Hey, am I doing what I need to be doing every single time? And I think sometimes fans and players and whoever else that's watching the game forgets about the actual controllables, right? Like, there's only so much you can control. Like, you really can't control if you win or lose. Even if you can do 100 hours of prep week, it not guaranteeing you a win, right? And I think sometimes people forget that, and it's been fun to, I think, change the mold with BYU in football, because it's like, I think just the excitement around football right now, and just the university in general. I mean, we're getting AJ Devonsa here for basketball. We're getting, Rob Wright, to BYU for basketball. We're getting big recruits, for football. We're winning games, big games. Like, we're not, and it's not just, okay, like, hey, cool, we're playing a big team. I hope we compete. It's like, hey, like, we're going out to win. Like, now we're talking about winning the Big 12 championship. Like, that's, like, in the past, it's kind of been like, There's no way. Like, I mean, I hope for it, but like now it's like, oh wow, that's like a legit thing. It's actually starting to get respect on BYU's football name. So you obviously have been here. You've been playing for a little bit. Let's talk about some games, man. We got to kind of where you were raised and how what matters to you with faith, family, football stuff. Now let's have some fun diving into some games. Like, what is it really like on the field? Like, what is that? I mean, I've been on the field as a spectator as far as watching you guys run out, and I'm like, dude, I might be the best flag football player ever in my head. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, dude, I'm ready to rock.
Yep.
But like, you're out there, you're freaking flying around, you're nailing people. Like, what kind of experiences is that?
It's so weird because like growing up watching college football and you're just like, man, that's crazy. These guys are playing in front of this much people. It's so loud. When you're playing, it's kind of like you're in your own world almost. Like you don't even really notice the crowd in a way until like you score like your defense scores a touchdown or something and you're like yelling and you can't hear yourself. But like it's such a it's such an amazing experience, especially to play at Lavelle Edwards Stadium or like play in the Big 12 where you're playing at these big stadiums.
Yeah, every stadium's a freaking
Yeah,
massive venue.
yeah, it is. And so like we really are blessed to get that experience every single Saturday to go out. And there's a lot of like we talked about earlier. There's a lot of trash talking going on. There's it's fun, man. It's what we
Who,
dreamed of to do.
what team last year was the most? I assume Utah, but maybe I'm wrong. But like, and if it is Utah, what other team? But like, what team was like the most trash talk team?
Oh, it was 100% Colorado.
Really?
100% Colorado. Yeah.
Okay, bowl
And then
game.
bowl game, even leading up to the bowl game, like when
Yeah,
we
what
had
was that like? Let's talk about that.
so yeah, like leading up to the bowl game, we had bowl game activities with the other teams as well. Like with Colorado, we all went to SeaWorld at the same time. We all had like a river rally on the river walk in San Antonio, and it was just a whole bunch of trash talk the whole time. There was a couple of like altercations that happened at SeaWorld, and it's funny like big guys fighting at SeaWorld, but
I love it.
and then leading up to the game, they have all the cameras and everything, and then they love to talk. But at the end of the day,
Brought it to him.
yeah, we it
I
was
mean, y'all
fun, man.
brought
Like
it to him.
we weren't gonna back down, and so it was a fun game to be a part of. Going into that game, our coaches told us that the team that wants to be there the most is the team that's gonna come out and win the game because we both of us could have been both teams could have been disappointed at where we were. Like playoff of not Big 12. We could have made it to the championship had we won Big 12 championship. We could have been in the playoffs, but now we're going to the Alamo Bowl. And so they said, this is still a huge bowl game for us. This is a big game for our university. And whoever goes there and embraces the bowl game and wants to be there the most is the team that's going to come out and win. And so we really focused on that at the bowl game. We're going to go to every activity and we're going to give everything we have for the river rally, and when the fans come we're gonna embrace the experience. And I do think that's something that I noticed from Colorado on their end, that it didn't look like they wanted to be there as much as us. Yeah, it didn't matter. But they're like talent wise, one of the most talented teams you'll ever see, like
Right. I
across the
mean,
board. And
you got unreal dudes that are at Colorado that
yeah,
never
they're
would have been
legit too. Like they're
yeah.
fast and they're strong, and so they talk a lot. Dion, Coach Dion said he's actually a really cool guy. He came up and said what's up to some of the players after the game. Not me, but like some of the players who got hurt. And
Yeah, how was he like? What was like him, Shadur, like Travis? Were they like that, or was it other random dudes?
actually, honestly, it was kind of other dudes. Those two actually don't. Travis Hunter talks a lot of
I mean,
trash.
I'm
Like he can
sure.
back it up. Like
Yeah, I mean,
he's like that.
I
So
mean, he's probably letting people know stuff, but like also, it's a little different when you're playing both ways, like all game, and like you're kind of like talking. But I feel like I noticed that it's usually dudes that like it's just random dudes that are
it
like
was more
talking.
so the random dudes talking. So yeah, but those two were really good. But we ran into them a couple of times. It was cool because when we were at SeaWorld, they had like all these cameras around Dion and Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders, and so it was just a cool experience. Like it's something that like kids from Utah like we're here and we're in front of all the cameras. It's just such a good opportunity for us to go out and ball out, and so
Right.
it
Okay, okay. So Colorado was the most trash talk. Okay, is that
Colorado, I'm trying to think of Arizona State talks a lot of trash too.
Arizona State was crazy. I
Their
have like
fans were irritating.
no, bro. I got that game circled like as a fan even. So I went to that game. So Kalani hooked it up. Went and sat. I sat by his mom. It was awesome. We were front row, right to the right of your guys' bench. I walked in that stadium, and what's funny is like I grew up in like kind of around Arizona a lot. Every summer I'd go there, so like I actually grew up liking ASU a lot.
Yeah.
Like I loved ASU. It was forks up. Like and it was easy to cheer against Utah. So I was like, that's ASU all the way. And then I moved to Utah. My buddies all sat me down. They're like, "All right, bro, are you blue or are you red?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." They're like, "Dude, are you a BYU fan or are you a Utah fan?" I'm like, "Dude, it's third grade, dog. I don't care about either." And they're like, "No, we can't be friends if you like BYU or we can't be friends if you like Utah, right?" So I was like, "Dang, dude, like, well, I like BYU basketball." But Utah football, and they're like, no, it don't work like that. You got to choose, right? And so, anyway, I grew up kind of like an ASU. I went down to that game and man, just the vulgar things that they were saying. Like, and again, I'm all like, I trash talk a ton, and I say probably out of pocket things when I'm hooping. But like, there's a difference when you're like walking in with me and my wife, and like the things that they're saying, and like, and then like the fans on the field, and then I mean, I don't want to get too controversial here, but like sometimes how you lead is kind of what you get. And I think their coach has done a really good job at what he's brought to ASU, and he's brought a lot of like passion back to the school because it was a falling off program in the sense of like, I mean, it was just ASU, you know what I mean? And now they get Scatterboo, they get Levitt, like there's all these better players coming there, but it's like how he was operating and how he was acting, it makes sense why fans were doing the things that they were doing. You know what I mean? At least from a fan, and that's just a Ben Johnson opinion. That's not anybody else's thoughts or opinions. That's just my opinion. But like, what was that game like? Because obviously we watched it from the thing, and then the 1 second left. There's a hail mary to Chase. Like kids are hiding in your freaking medical tent. Like, I mean, what was that like? How do you just bite your tongue on that?
Oh my gosh, we just yeah, that took a lot of self discipline, especially when that happened and you have all the fans running onto the field and like have a camera in your face every 5 seconds and people recording you. I'm like, oh my gosh, just taking everything in me to just not react. And so it was tough. Like you said, like those fans were wild, even though most of the stadium was filled with blue. So
Yeah, it was crazy, and
there
and
was
most of those people are going to church on Sunday.
yeah, and so
Like there's a lot of LDS community in ASU, like Arizona too, and so I was like, the same people that are like talking crazy are gonna
yeah, no,
be.
it was that was a crazy game. That was definitely a crazy game and a crazy when everyone came on the field and
Yeah, they
still have
cleared them
1 second
off.
left.
What's crazy is they didn't make them go to the stands. Like they just had them
Yeah,
standing on
just
the
on the side.
side, which I was like, dude, when Chase caught that, I was like I just see Tom Homo and Brian running over and
Grabbing it.
grabbing
Yeah.
him, and then friggin' people getting spit on. Like I mean, I heard some crazy stories from the players, and like Isaiah was walking out, and some dude was trying to fight. I was like, sometimes I wish like I had Spicy Tuna on here, and he was like, dude, I like, and obviously he's a fighter for the hockey club, and he's always messing people up, and I'm like, how dope would it be if like, all right, if a fan's in your face, you can kind of go at him. I don't think fans would talk as much.
No.
Like I don't think fans would talk as much. Like I don't think a dude's gonna talk to like for basketball. Like I don't think a dude's probably gonna say anything to Kaba, or I don't think a dude's gonna probably say anything to Caleb Etienne. Like I just maybe they do, but maybe that's where they can learn that opportunity that's not what they do.
Yeah.
But like so ASU was crazy. What was that locker room speech? Obviously Tyler Batty kind of got a little backlash from it to some degree, but most people were like, okay, like we kind of understood it.
Yeah.
What was that kind of? Because obviously you guys weren't playing, probably the way you hoped for in the first half. Scottaboo was kind of doing his thing. You guys are obviously frustrated, but clearly you're not waking up and being like, okay, how can I lose today? Like, right? Like you guys want to win, so it's like, what was that locker room? Obviously Tyler has the speech that he had, but it's like, what was in that locker room at that time, being down like that?
At halftime.
Yeah, yeah, halftime.
That like everything that video that got exposed, that was everything that went down. Like right after that, that's what we needed. Like honestly, like people are gonna bag on Tyler Batty for that and stuff. Like we're at BYU, but at the end of the day, it's like that's passion. Like he's just trying to get us going. We were so flat coming into that game, and we shouldn't. We can't. That's our playoff hopes right there. And so he came back another year so that we could play in the playoffs. And he was just being passionate towards us, and that's the kind of leader he is. He's a very good vocal leader towards his team, and when that happened, like we came into the locker room, we're like, okay, what happened? Like, what's going on? Like these guys aren't, they're not way better than us. Like it's just things that we're doing that's not right. And so it was just we weren't down. Like when we came into the locker room, there, it wasn't like we thought we were gonna lose. Like we knew if we locked in, we could go back out there and we have a chance to win the game, which we did. We gave ourselves at least a
Dude, it was
chance. You
crazy.
know,
Like the whole second half, I was like,
it was a
"What?"
different
Like
game. Yeah.
different game.
And so it was very everyone was okay. Let's go. Let's lock in and let's go do what we know we can do. And Tyler helped us do that. You know, he motivated us for the team to go out
Yeah,
and play good in the second half.
and I, dude, I'm a big believer of like, dude, that's a like I and like obviously I've been able to see Tyler play and practice and just, I mean, that's kind of who he is as a leader and kind of keeps people accountable and I think that is something that you need and like you want that. And so I'm like, for the people that were like, oh, like, I'm like, okay, you probably never step foot in a locker room because like dudes like that, like that's a real life setting where, and honestly, I'm not saying like, oh, it could have been worse. Like, dude, that's a real life setting in a locker room, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously that game, didn't go the way BYU wanted. You had a lot of other crazy games as well. A couple, a shank punt that goes off a shoulder pad, right? Like, just, I mean, there's just some gut wrenching plays last year that were just like again, you can't control that. You can't control a fake punt on a quarterback that freaking hits a shoulder pad. Like you can't make that up. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, okay, like fourth quarter this is gonna happen or third. Like that stuff doesn't happen, right? And so obviously, you had the year you had. One last question about last year, then we'll talk about the future real quick. But I mean, BYU Utah, it's going BYU way currently right now. How was that game at Utah?
Man, okay, that was probably the most electric environment we played in all season last year.
Because I've heard two things from two guys, and they both said the same thing, and both were on opposite teams. They said that was the most physical game they played in all year. Oh, yeah. Like as far as like their bodies both hurt, and what's crazy is one was on Utah and one was at BYU, and they said it was the most like body wrenching experiences all season.
I think that it's just like that game means so much to everybody on both sides of the ball. Yeah. Like you have dudes that grew up BYU fans playing against dudes that grew up Utah fans, and you have dudes who grew up Utah fans playing for BYU, and then it's just like the game has always meant so much to us as fans of the team and as football players, and so that game was intense. You know, there was a lot of hitting, a lot of extra stuff going on. I remember running down on the kickoff, and out of nowhere, I got blindsided. And in my head, I was everywhere. I was like, where am I right now? Yeah. But like that's what the game is. Like everyone is giving 100%, and that game just means so much to everybody on both sides of the ball. Yeah. And definitely like my favorite environment to play. You know, when we won, that's a peak feeling. Like I don't know if I've ever felt
such
like,
a fun experience. It's one thing to win, and then when you beat a rival at their place, it's just different. Like the feeling is different. Like obviously you want to win at home. It's awesome, all those great things, but it's like when you do it at their place, like I kind of like being a road winner, like winning on the road and like just kind of shutting people up. Like I think that's super fun to me. Like obviously the home crowd's dope and it's a fun experience, but like nothing's better than beating a rival at their place.
Oh yeah. And it's funny too because like there's dudes on that team that some of them are my best friends. Like Logan Fano, that's my best friend, and Spencer Fano, like I grew up around them, and then I have a cousin on the team, Livani, and his brother plays at BYU, and it's like the whole season we're talking, and then like once Holy War week hits, it's like no one talks to each other. Like really? Like that one week we're locked in, we're going like, and then right when the game is done, then it's cool again. But it's like there's really so much to that game, and it means so much to everybody, especially people in state, which I think also goes on to the culture of Utah. Like sports are huge here. Like people love sports, and I think it's great, great for the state in general that you have schools like BYU and Utah who have that rivalry.
And at a high level, like I feel like Utah in the state of Utah has been so overlooked of sports, right? People say there's not good enough sports athletes. I mean, you look at how many guys from Utah, like obviously Puka was born in Vegas, but I mean he's played at BYU, and he's in the NFL, right? Like you got guys, Jalen, Julian Blackman, Utah kid, went to Layton High School, bro. Like Layton High School was nothing crazy, like, and he's there. Like, there's so many guys we can go through, that are from Utah. Like, dude, Utah needs to. I think the credibility of Utah sports needs to go up like a lot, which just, I mean, obviously over time, but I think as BYU keeps winning, as Utah keeps doing their thing, like, I think just as people keep building, I think it builds the state as well. And I think it's really cool to watch. I mean, like, I just watched Utah basketball just pick up a dude that, like, had no idea they were going to pick up a kid from Syracuse, right? Or BYU gets AJ DeBonsa. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, that stuff's not happening all the time. And so I think what Utah State as a state is building is really cool. And I think it's cool that you're in the peak of it, you know what I mean? And so I guess, a couple questions left is what's kind of the motivation? Obviously, I think there's some common sense that you're like, Ben, it's common sense, bro. We lost a couple games last year that we want back. I think that's the common sense answer, but like, what is kind of the vocal point at practice right now in off-season workouts as far as like what you're trying to do next year? You know what I mean?
Everything that we emphasize, like going into the winter and going into the spring, is finish. Finish, finish, finish. We had everything in our hands. We were in control of our own destiny, but we didn't finish. And so I think that's something that we're really focusing on going into this off season, because you can go back and look at last season and think, oh, Arizona State, we should have got a flag and we should have had one more play, or Kansas got lucky. But at the end of the day, we have to blame ourselves. Like, we were in control of our own destiny. We win those 2 games, we go to the playoffs. Like, it's that simple. And we just didn't finish. It was the last 2 games of the regular season. And I think that's something that, because we know we're capable of what we're capable of. The expectation for us is win a Big 12 championship, go to the college football playoffs, and make noise, and win a national championship as well. But if you can't finish out games, then it can't happen. And so that's our emphasis this offseason. That's the motivation. Is I think it's easy for teams to go 11-2 and say, "Oh wow, like we're good, like we made it." But that almost gives us even more bitter taste in our mouth than the year before when we were 5-7. Because we're right there, yeah. And so just we got to be better at that, and just finishing the games, finishing strong in the fourth quarter. And those are all the emphasis that we're doing. And I think, like, they incorporate that into our workouts, into spring ball, with, like, every Friday we have, like, an insane workout, and we go, and it's all about finishing, like, finish strong. And that's what preparation, yep. And that's what we're looking forward to, and that's what's motivating us for next season.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm excited to, kind of watch you do your thing. And, obviously my little brother's going to be playing there. So it's, I'm obviously super invested into
Yep.
BYU just in general, but I'm excited to see, you. And it's been fun to get to know some of the other guys as well. And I feel like, so the last question that we're going to ask, to get some more insight beyond just football, because I think sometimes there's a misconception, right? We talked about it earlier where, before your mission, it was just like, I'm Raider, I'm a football guy. And then you go on a mission, you're kind of this missionary version. Now you're kind of this identity of just football. And like, I definitely know, just personally talking to you, like, you're definitely more than a football player. Don't get it twisted. You're an absolute dog on the football field. And it's awesome to watch your highlights, which we will be dropping under here. We will be dropping some clips. But I think who you are as Raider is way more valuable than anything else, right? Because at the end of the day, football is going to end at some point, whether you have a Hall of Fame career or not. At some point, that's going to end, and your life as who Raider is going to go far further than anything else. And so, how do you feel like connections and who you are as Raider has kind of formed you into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part. Like you said, football's gonna end someday, and, like, people aren't gonna want to help someone who's a standoff, or who's stuck up. And so I think it's important that all credit goes to the way that I was raised as well too. I was raised from with my dad and my mom. They're great parents, and they've installed principles in my house to follow throughout my life. And those are the most things of most importance to them for me to do. Football is cool, basketball is cool, sports is cool, but who you are as a person, people are gonna remember who you are as a person. And I think that's something that's super important. And I have a great opportunity to show people who I am as a person using football, using the platform that I have at BYU, where BYU, there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of connections and networking that are at BYU, and so that's something that's of most importance to me as well, is making sure I'm a good person on the field and off the field as well, and knowing that if I'm a good person, people are gonna be nice, and they're gonna want to help you out, and I'm gonna help them out too, and so I think that's something that's super important for me in my life.
No, 100%, bro. I think you're spot on, and I think you're a easy dude to cheer for, bro. Like I remember, obviously I've seen you do your thing. I like seen you play. Starting to get to know you a little bit more, and I always love watching for you at the basketball game. I was like, where's Ray Red in the student section? He's got his vlog camera. He's like all going crazy in the student section, and I love it, bro. It's just like it just goes to show like kind of who you are. You know what I mean? Like fun, good dude, energetic. And so easy to cheer for. So everybody make sure if you're not a BYU fan, you at least got to be a Raider fan. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about Las Vegas Raiders. I'm talking about Raider Damuni. You got to be a Raider Damuni fan. Make sure to follow him on every social media platform. We'll drop his tags below. Make sure to follow him, show him love, support him, cheer him on all season and off season, everything else in between. Hope you have, good health and good everything else throughout the rest of the way, and can't wait to watch you do your thing in the fall.
Appreciate you. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, man. Well, again, appreciate everybody tuning in at Ben Connected. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Appreciate y'all. See you next week.